My name's Jim Sheehan. I'm from Spokane. I'm the founder and president of the Center for Justice, which is a law firm that does civil rights, a lot of environmental, and a whole bunch of different poverty law kinds of issues. I'm also founder of the Community Building, which is a complex of about 6 buildings in Spokane called Community Building, and we like to refer to the word building as both a verb and a noun. But I'm not here to talk to you about any of that. Oh, by the way, a couple of our buildings, one of them is a LEED Platinum certified. We renovated it. It's an incredible place. And then another one is a Gold Platinum. That's our food co-op in the same area. But I'm here to talk to you about Envision Spokane, which is a organization that started back in 2005, essentially. Before that, though, I'd like to say I started my career as a public defender, and I did that for about 20 years. And the day after Nixon was pardoned, I took my client in, and I think he was charged with some random drug offense, maybe a misdemeanor possession of marijuana or something like that. And I asked the judge if he would consider pardoning my client, the same as President what's his name, Ford said, pardoned Richard Nixon. And the judge, he didn't see it my way. He didn't think that that was all that terribly clever, and in fact was seriously considering sending me into the Steele Hotel with my client. But the point was, and it was my first experiencing of realizing that justice is not blind, justice is very pliable, and justice is particularly accessible to those who have money and property. And in fact, that's what the Constitution really, that's who the Constitution really protects, and that's who the Constitution really was probably written by. James Madison has a quote in the Federalist Papers saying, we have to protect the opulent against the majority. Okay, so, like Peter, I also was thinking of running for something one time, but I have too many skeletons because I actually did inhale, you know.
My town liked it.
Yeah. Okay. Envision Spokane is an organization that began in about '05. We started by going to democracy school. It was run by Tom Linzey and some other people in Spokane, Kai and Brad Reed. And we came together in groups of maybe 60 or 70 people to try to see what we could do to implement the things that we were learning in democracy school. Those things are some of the things that I've mentioned already, that the Constitution is grounded in property, not rights, that those who have a position in property have the access to the system and to justice, where others don't. And so what we did was begin to bring groups of people together, labor unions, activists, environmentalists, libertarians, people who had somewhat of the same ideas that wanted to do something about making a change politically, structurally in the system, not just active asking. What we were really saying is that this is what we want. We're not interested in what we can get. This is what we want. We're the people, and we're the ones that are going to make decisions, not the corporate system, which we believed is the decision makers at the present time. So we decided that the best way to go would be to create an initiative and put it on the ballot, a municipal initiative. Took us about 4 years from the time we began until we were able to put together an initiative, and that was a lot of incredibly hard work because you had from some very, very strange bedfellows in this group, and we came up with the initiative that said there were 11 different points on the initiative. Rights of nature, you had a right to health care, you had a right to a reasonable economy, you had a right to safe housing, you had a right in the workplace, you had, and I can't remember all of them right now. We had to gather signatures, of course, to get the initiative on board. We had to get 3,200 signatures, so we went out and got 5,500 signatures, standing on street corners and in front of grocery stores and the usual thing that people do to gather signatures. The movement was really pretty well received in a way that was, by the people though, in a way that we really didn't expect. And I think the reason was because people were realizing that things weren't really working all that well. You know, we've heard doom and gloom statistics forever, and all of those are true, and all of those, and I have a whole big long list of those that I won't go through, but it's really important to pay attention to those and to understand that things just aren't working, and we need to do some systemic change, not something that is right at the heart, right in the heart, in the gut of the system that we've got going right now. And people, I think, understood that. Let me give you, I'll give you one example. Today, I believe, is the anniversary of the passage of the Clean Water Act, excuse me. And in fact, it's Clean Water Act Day today in Spokane because the Center for Justice petitioned that we have that today, and the city council and the mayor and all that said, okay. The problem is that things are worse than they were when the Clean Water Act was passed. They're worse today than they were but when we started 40 years ago. So that's an idea of what it is that we're up against, because it's, well, the discussion can go on and on about the problems. I mean, the polluters, when we tell them they can't do something, all they do is we restrict them. We restrict them not in no pollution, but in how much they can pollute. And it's the same with the Clean Air Act. Anyway, so we got our 5,500 signatures and set it into the system that needs to be done to get it on the ballot. Before we started, the city council decided that we should put two provisos, two questions before our initiative. The one question was asking the people if they wanted to increase taxes to support the Community Bill of Rights. Now, there's no indication that the taxes would be increased, but so we're not only battling corporate systems, and we're also battling governance. The second question, that was the first question. The second question was, are you willing to accept reduced services? Which again, of course, was something that we don't know if that was going to happen or not. But, so this went on the ballot in 2009, and surprisingly, we didn't win. We got 25% of the vote. But that meant that was 13,000 votes. 13,000 people said. We also were outspent 8-1. There was $500,000 that was spent in asking or in advertising against the Community Bill of Rights, most of which, over 350,000 of that, was from sources outside of the Spokane area, most of it outside of the state of Washington. Because people were seeing that this was not something that the corporate system and the governance really wanted. Anyway, we saw that as a kind of a win. You know, 13,000 people, that's pretty good. So we came back together and said, let's play again. And we put the whole thing together again, and this time we reduced it from 11 points to 4. Rights to nature, stripping personhood, corporate personhood in our community, giving the ability to neighborhoods to make decisions about what it is, how it is they want their neighborhood to look. I'm kind of paraphrasing the whole thing, as you can imagine. And then, of course, I always... And then the fourth one, which I can't remember right now. And we had a campaign. I think I was actually the Chamber of Commerce, head of the Chamber of Commerce in Spokane, asked me to come in and talk to him about the whole thing, and he took me around and showed me all the offices. I know him, and he's really a decent guy, and he took me around his office and he said, "This is what we're doing. Isn't this great? And this is what we're doing, and we're doing, and so on and so on and so on." And then we went into the room and we sat down, and he gave me a cup of coffee and he said, "Jim, why don't we just not put this on the ballot this time? Why don't we just, we'll talk and we'll bring you and the other people who are involved in this to the table." And I said, "Rich, that's great. That's really great, except that we've been doing that for 200 years or 250 years, and it ain't working. So we're going to do something different this time. We're going to put it on the ballot and see where it goes." So in 2011, it was on the ballot for the second time, and we were having a party, kind of an election night party at my house, and the house there's a big room in the back, and then another room. And so I was in the back, and all of a sudden I heard screaming, from the other, it went racing in, and the first election returns were in, and it was 50-50. We ultimately wound up losing the election 49 point something to 50 point something, and had there been a shift in 501 votes, we would have won the election. We would have put the community bill we would have stripped corporate personhood in Spokane. Now, I get that that's the beginning. I get that there's going to be a lot of lawsuits and so on and so forth and that we're going to get preempted by the state and by the federal systems. But the point is that our community is making a decision about what it is that we want. We're not going to be told by Washington, D.C. or Olympia, who maybe have never been to Spokane, what they think is best for us. We have the right and the ability to make our own, well, we don't have the right, we have the ability to make our own decisions about what it is that we want in our community. And that is not the case right now. So this whole thing is incredibly grassroots. This is really one of the most grassroots things that's going on that I'm involved in and ever have been involved with. It's going on now in Bellingham, which is a city north of Seattle. It's going on in Mount Vernon, in Seattle, in Olympia. There are grassroots organizations that are coming together and coalescing. We had a meeting actually in Spokane a couple months ago of all the groups in Washington trying to get some consistency and a broader base for taking this Community Bill of Rights into a bigger arena. Because essentially what we're talking about really is a new constitutional convention. When you think about it for a second, in 1776, there were 800 million people in the world. There's over 7 billion now. In the U.S., there was about 3.2 million people in the U.S., and now we're over 300 million, 314 or whatever it is. That structure that we've got, constitutional structure, needs change. It needs dramatic, systemic change. And everybody that's spoken here so far talks about the things that we need to do. The problem is, one of the problems is that the law doesn't allow us to do a lot of things that are being talked about. It doesn't, if you want to have for example, you want to have only in your community, only organic farming being done in your community, you really can't do that legally. Tom Linzey says that sustainability is illegal. And I think that that's probably true. Okay, I just got the 1 minute sign. What we're doing now, we're going to go play again. We're going to come up with our Bill of Rights, Community Bill of Rights, and put it on the ballot for 2013. Amazingly enough, the City Council passed a whole bunch of rules that make it a lot tougher to get an initiative on the ballot. Doesn't that surprise you? One of the things, we were able to get it on the ballot prior to, not on the ballot, but get an opening, and I'm not sure exactly how the legal structure worked, but we are going to be on the ballot under the old rules because we said we want to play before the new rule came into effect. So watch for us in 2013. Look for Spokane to be the first community in the world, really, to have a community bill of rights, give rights to nature and strip corporate personhood, and we'll go from there for all the things that are going to follow after that. Thank you.